I have an extremely simple tag to show you today, the style tag. You may have already experimented with this. You may have already worked on this in previous projects, in previous classes, etc. Let me make sure everybody's got their phones away. They do. The entry task is important to your line of thinking today. It's important to what I'm going to show you from a functional standpoint because you as the developer get the option of making your page however you want to make it, right? Somebody has hired you or given you some type of assignment to complete a task, and how you complete the task, so long as you meet the outcomes, is your call. However, there are some best practices. If you wanted to run a marathon, you don't want to sprint the whole thing, right? You're still running a marathon if you're sprinting it, but it's not very fun and it's not very good for you. So, point I'm making is there is a good way to do things and a not as good way to do things. What are we doing with that? Oh, we're frozen. What are we doing with that knowledge in mind? We are just looking at a single tag today for the basic version, and then a little bit later in the day, if we've got progress or if we've got interest in it, I'll show you a little bit more of an intermediate version that involves some new containers. But these new containers are going to be all throughout web design, so if we don't get to it today, it's not the end of the world. We're talking the style tag. You may have already experimented with this. It is one of your requirements for project number 1. I'll show you 2 methods and allow you to experiment with some time today. Okay? What are your outcomes? Let me shut my door real quick before I show you the outcomes. Your outcomes are customizing your About Me pages, your project number 1s, which are due tomorrow at midnight. We'll talk about the continued relationship between inline elements and container-based elements and how those pieces work together. And then I have CSS intro, in quotes here, in air quotes, because what we're doing today is technically CSS, but a very, very, very slimmed down version. Okay? We're not doing a full CSS lesson because that's an entirely different sub-language, but you'll get to start seeing how the pieces work. Again, how the formulas start to come together with what we do today. 2 methods. There's inline styling, which is easier but gets messier. It's not a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of. And then there is a head container plus selectors, which is the intermediate version we'll get to a little bit later. For now, we'll mostly focus on inline style. And if you ever watch 4th period's video, we focus very heavily on inline style. I also tried to get the unstyler extension working, but I couldn't find it. It was a cool way to take away all of the CSS that makes a web page pretty. I have the hiccups, excuse me. So you could just look at the skeleton. You can see how other pages that you've used before, how they laid them out and then styled them later, but I couldn't get it to work. So we're just going to talk about that later or ignore it for now. Okay, let's talk about the style tag. So if you look at your Thursday 212 in the resources 4.2, you're going to see there is a style/tag element right here. And this is one of your requirements. We'll look at that link here in just a second for project number 1. Which I've linked right here in case you need it. Project number 1, if we look at the rubric, for styling, you need to have at least one element with this style attribute. I've said that word attribute before. Where does an attribute, or give me some examples of attributes we've experimented with in this class. There are 2 major ones. One starts with an S for images. SRC is an attribute. And the other one we did for anchors. It's 4 letters. Iref, exactly. So style is an attribute, which means it lives inside of a start tag. And I'm going to show you how you can start doing that with this HTML styles link right here. If we click on the Try It Yourself editor on W3 Schools, you'll see the most basic version of this inline styling that you'll need for the completion of your project. Okay? Let me zoom in just a little bit here. Make this a little bit larger. Okay. So, if we look at the paragraph that says, I am normal, that's the standard sandwich we're used to making, right? That's our standard start tag, our standard content, and our standard end tag. All the usual pieces are there. However, if we look at this I am red one right here, which is I've highlighted them on the input and on the output. It's a little difficult to see on the projector, but you should be able to see it a little better on the screen share. There's an attribute, just the letters STYLE. And then our very important equals and quotes. And then this is the CSS part inside of the middle, because CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It's the middle S. We'll talk about that language later. By adding this attribute of style, then something specific about the style, then something even more specific about the style, you're going to see that the output changes from normal text to red text. And an example like this will get you all the points you need for Project A1. Okay? That being said, let me show you how to do it step by step in VS Code. 2 different ways. We're going to start with the inline version. Okay, so let me close out of my, let me get this back to the way it was. Let me see if I can Control Z it. Control Z it all away. Get rid of those containers. Okay, so this is what let's get the table back in here. There we go. Okay, so this is where we left our page previously, right? This looks familiar. This has our image. This has our anchor. This has our table. Stuff that your class has seen before. Because I was not here yesterday, I wasn't able to show fourth period like I was able to show you. All right? So this is what we've looked at so far for text-based and image-based elements. For now, I'm going to take all of this code and save it somewhere else by holding Control and pressing X. That's the same as copying it. And I'm just going to put it on this notepad right here for later, in case I want to use it a little bit later. That'll give us an extremely simple page with at least one text-based element like an anchor right here, and then our very obvious Seahawks image logo. To start styling something, you first need to have it functional, which is the reason that I've asked you the entry task question of should you make it work first or should you make it pretty first? The prettiness needs to attach to something that works, okay? Function, then form, right? We need to have an element here to style by going shift comma, the letter P, shift period. That's going to give us our 2 slices of bread. And then we're just going to add some text. I'm going to show you how to change the color. So I'm going to call this colorful, not yext, text. There we go. Control S, click my green refresh right here in order to get the output back to normal. We have some normal colorful text right here. It's not colorful yet though, because we haven't styled it. Because style is an attribute, if you look at lines 2 and 3, you're going to see other elements with different attributes. Where do I put my style equals on line number 4? Any guesses? Where do I put my style equals on line number 4? The front. I'm hearing some fronts. Who agrees with front? Okay. So I should put it right here, right? No? Seeing some head nods. Where should it go specifically? Inside, exactly. It goes inside the paragraph right here by hitting space, and then we write out the word S-T-Y-L-E, not styler. So see how I made a typo, and it made my suggestion go away. Again, your computer is extremely literal. It needs exact directions. So if I put styler, that's nothing. But if I start this over and I type oh God, that's not even close. Okay, S-T-Y, there's a style right here that gives me an equals quotes for us to add some style to. You're going to see your HTML is going to turn yellow at the top, not red. Okay, yellow means it will still work, but it's missing some type of key component that's not as important as an end tag or something that will break the code. Okay? When you're styling something, or when you are referencing something like W3 Schools, let me zoom out. When you are referencing something like W3 Schools, it's going to show you the type of things you can change. Like background color we'll get to a little bit later because that one needs a container. For the color of the text, you can see there's a bunch of different options. If you're trying to change the font, it's another thing you can change. You can change the size using percentages, or you can use pixel values. You can change the alignment, where you want the text to end up. But something that's consistent across all of these different formulas is the setup. And you can see that right here with the style attribute. It always breaks down using syntax, like in language arts, right? Rules of a written language. The tag name, which is the element, style equals, the property is the thing that you are trying to change, and the value is the thing you are trying to change it to. So if I wanted to change the color of my paragraph, tag name is P, property is color, and then value is going to be something specific. So we're back in VS Code. Let me open up my Edge browser as well here. Back in VS Code, clicking inside of the quotation marks, and we're going to add the word C-O-L-O-R. Okay? And it's going to give me some wrenches, some selections, because VS Code is trying to help us out, trying to help us be more efficient coders here. We're going to click on color right here, and it's going to add 2 very interesting punctuation marks. What is the first one that you guys are seeing right there? It's 2 dots. What's the name for the 2 dots punctuation mark? stacked on top of each other. I heard it. Starts with a C. Colon. It's exactly. You always start after your property with a colon. The computer needs to know when to start and stop reading, just like with HTML code. Okay? So we have our property. The thing that we're trying to change about the paragraph is the color. Now somebody give me a value, something that we're going to change the color to. Real quick. Pink? Okay. So we'll type out PINK, and you're going to see it's going to have an automatic suggestion for pink. If I click that, and then I Control S to save, and I double click my refresh right here, what's going to happen to my colorful text? Nothing. I haven't clicked it yet. So once I click it, it's going to turn pink. It's going to be really difficult to see on the projector, and hopefully visible on the output that you're seeing right there. Oops, I accidentally moved something over. Okay? So something like this will get you all the points that you need for Project A1 because we're just getting started. Image and anchors, these are not styles, so these do not count. For your style specific part of the rubric, the word style must be present with a selector and a value, as well as having a completed element in order for you to get the points on the rubric. Okay? Does that make sense? There are a lot of different properties that you can change about your HTML. And if you don't want to change color, since that's all I've shown you how to do, for one thing, it is fine if all you want to do is change color. But if you want to do something different, you want to look up what you're trying to change and then the word CSS selector or CSS property, excuse me. So if you're trying to change something like font size and W3 Schools isn't helpful, go to Google, CSS property font size, and see what that tells you. See where that gets you. Okay? It is very, very important that you have both the colon and the semicolon at the end of your style tag. Okay? Your computer needs to always know when to start reading and when to stop reading. Okay? And this is the inline version of styling because it's within a line. Sorry, excuse me. It is within a line of code. Quickly, I want to show you the head and body version. And then I will have you guys work on this until we did noon for fourth period. I think by 1 o'clock I'll be able to help all of you individually. But anyways, I want to show you this part first. Okay, but before I do that, inline styling, does that make sense? Seeing some nods? Okay, sweet. All right, now step outside of the computer for a second. Step outside of the coding environment for a second. If I ask you, as my students, to tell me what I'm doing in my head, can you, yes or no? No, you can't read my mind, right? However, you can see that I have a body that occupies space. You can see how I exist in the room, right? Just like you can see how all of your other classmates exist in the room, because we each have a head that we can't see and a body that we can see. I want you to remember that for HTML because those two containers serve a very similar purpose in the output. And the reason I'm telling you this is because if you wanted to change the background color of your site, you need to do it to the body, okay? Let me show you how you make that. You make it almost exactly the same way as you set up your HTML document, okay? So if I hit enter and I go shift comma, write out the word HEAD, head, shift period, enter. We can leave this blank right here. This is our website's brain, so to speak, right? Asterisk on that. We'll put some more stuff in the head a little bit later. For now, leave it blank. Just leave it as is. But just like you can't see what's going on in my head, your users, the people who visit your site, can't see what's going on in the HTML head because it's not going to display. At least as much as the main page will display. We'll get to that stuff later, okay? You create a body container the exact same way you create an HTML and a head container. But, again, the difference is that the part that you put inside the body of your web page, your users can see. Just like inside of the classroom, you can see your classmates because they have an outward thing that takes up space. Okay? So I'm going to hit enter, shift comma, BODY, shift period, oh, not that one, shift period, enter, and now I have a head container and a body container. Body's visible, head is not. If you choose to do this, with modern HTML, it can work. So if I refresh right here, I click on my green arrow right here, my output doesn't change. We still have paint colorful text. We still have our image. We still have our link. Everything's working. But in old HTML, and for the practice of doing it correctly, everything you want to be inside of your page needs to be inside of the body container. So I need to take my lines. For me, it's 8, 9, and 10. Hold Control and press X to get rid of those. Click on a blank number 6, Control V, and it will automatically nest them in the correct container, where the body becomes the parent and lines 6, 7, and 8 become the children, like we talked about earlier this week. Okay? Now what we have right here is the ability to change the entire look of our body, customize with that selector that'll affect everything on the page. And I'll finish this up in 4 minutes tops so that you have time to work, okay? If you want to change the background color, or if you wanted to change the rules of the container, if you think back to parents and children, our parents have all given us genes, and depending on the two parents that share the genes, changes your output, right? If we want to use a big biology word, it's your phenotype, okay? By adding data to the body, by changing the way that the parents behave, it's going to influence how the children appear, okay? So if I add style to the body, it's going to influence all of the children below it, all the children contained within it, okay? That was a lot of big thinking for how you write out the word S-T-Y-L-E, and then you hit equals. What are we trying to change specifically about the body? If we're trying to change the background color, what is our property? Which is not a trick question. If I'm trying to change the background color, what do I write in the property section? Color? Who agrees with color? Color is very close. Color is not specific enough, Joey. Background color, exactly. Background color tells your computer specifically, so if I type out the word back, you're going to see a lot of different options here. There's also background image. There's also background size. If you wanted to set an image for your background, you can write an image, but that's another topic. But you'll notice, look, none of these have spaces. They all have hyphens, right? When you write code, because you're writing in a different language, what you want to remember is it's almost always all lowercase, and there are almost never spaces. Where you put instead of a space is a dash or a hyphen or an underscore. Okay? So if I click background color, somebody give me a background color, aqua. Okay? So if I type out AQUA, you're going to see the computer's pretty good at guessing these color names. There is a surprising amount of data stored inside of general HTML that you can write out the color of a name of a color and something will happen. So if I click on aqua, I make sure that I have a colon after my property. Property is the thing we're changing. And then after my value, the thing that we're changing it to, there's a semicolon. When I refresh, you're going to see the background turn aqua. Now, is the colorful text part easy to read on this current output? No, it's not. Don't worry about that right now. What I would recommend that you do is just pick either an element to change the color of, or the size of, or the font of, or whatever, and have that be your one thing. We'll get into the, sorry, hold on, I have the hiccups really bad. We'll get into the design-specific thinking a little bit later in the semester. Now that you guys are getting more and more practice with HTML, getting the basics down, we can start talking design and intention a little bit more clearly. Does that make sense? What I've just shown you, and I'll give you 20 minutes, or actually we'll do 15 to 20 because I want to give you some time for the exit task. What I've shown you here is a container-based style. I have given my body container, which is a parent, specific sets of genes that are going to be inherited by their children, just like in biology. Okay? So because these three elements are within a body container, whatever rule I set to the body, especially with CSS, the C in CSS stands for cascading, like a waterfall, it cascades over everything beneath it. So whatever I set to the body will influence the children. Whatever I set to the parent influences the children. Does that make sense? Okay, what I'm going to do Jake and I are going to take the next 15 to 20 minutes to make sure you're getting these style pieces. Once you've got everything necessary for project number 1, which is 2 to 3 text-based elements, you do not have to use these 1.1, 1.2 as your text-based elements. These are just ideas. They're optional. You need at least one image, and you've just got some basic styling that I've shown you how to do. When those 3 things are true, you take your code, Control-A, C, paste it in. It might even come in with the VS Code like coloring to it. Submit the assignment, and you're done. Okay? I'll call you back at like 12:55-ish so we can talk exit task and finish out our PowerPoint. Okay? Show me on your thumb where you're at today. Upside or down? Love it. Cool. All right. See you in about 15 minutes. I know the screen share has ended. Hey, real quick. Settle down. I'm going to restart the class so you can see the screen share just for these last couple minutes. Give me 1 second to do that. Where'd it go? Okay. Give me just a second. All right. Sorry if you were on a tab, but in the blocking plan, it is going to be reblocked really quick. Okay. I want to go over... We are recording. I want to go over the last little part of the slideshow, why this stuff is important. You know you're getting it by knowing how to change the way an element looks, whether that is font specifically, font size, location on the page, the color of it. You know how to change the way an element looks. You also know the difference between a container-based styling, like adding a rule to a body or to a table or to a div. A couple of you have started experimenting with div already. That's going to be our next week after break. And you know the difference between that and inline styling. Put it on the specific elements, changing it as necessary. Knowing the difference is the important part. And you know how to recognize some basic changes. Changing the color, changing the location, changing the decoration. Decoration is stuff like underline, bold, italic, but they have different names in CSS. I think it's emphasis, subscript, and strong. That's how you know you're getting it so far as styling goes from today. Why are we doing this? Again, to reiterate, process is better than product. I want you to practice making it function and then making it pretty, okay? Coming off the entry task, the way I prefer you do it is functional first and then format, okay? Make it work first, make it pretty second. You get to customize this. You make it yours. Because it's an About You page, you get to make it your version of your About You page. And your uniqueness, this is beyond web design in general, your uniqueness as an individual comes from within you as well as from the choices that you make. So the choices you're making with your style represent your unique vision. And later in the semester, we get in depth on the psychology and the mind part of design, specifically around the user experience, like reading your page and adding different functional things to the top that make it a more efficient website. Okay? Your exit task for, we'll probably do tomorrow actually, we'll just skip it for now. You can also answer it outside of class. Which styling method is easier to understand, inline or container, and why? So I ran out of time just a little bit. Definitely should have done that.